and prevail in your fantasy football league with the help of our starting lineup. At host to quarterback the show, we have Nick Giacobbe. Up next, a dual threat in Dynasty and Daily Fantasy, we have Cody Repass. And finally, working the waiver wire, we have Nick Cap. These are your playmakers that will provide you with sleepers, breakouts, and busts to help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome to episode 8 of the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, in the hopes that we help you prevail in Week 3 and throughout the rest of the 2021 fantasy season. I am your host, Nick Giacobbe. Joining me every single week is Cody Repass.
What's going on, buddy?
Nothing much. It's a happy Friday. We are ready for Week 3. Joining us, as always, Nick Capsalis.
How's it going, guys? Big week 3.
Big week 3. I think we all need some wins in fantasy, whether it's daily, whether it's redraft, whether it's dynasty. I think we all could use some wins. So hopefully we follow our advice, and hopefully you follow our advice. We could all get some wins for week 3 to start off. Hopefully 3-0, 2-1, or at the worst 1-2. We have a fun show today, guys. We have a news segment, a lot of injuries that we gotta talk about going into week 3 and how that's going to affect your fantasy week. We also have to talk about our locks and flops for the week, a rapid fire start and sit for every single game, and we're going to end things off today with our triple threat challenge. We are all 0-2 at the moment. This is a lot harder than we thought it would be, but we're having fun with it. We're not doing a Q&A segment this week. But we're going to do a lot of questions on the Sunday show. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you do want to join our Sunday show, please do so. It's going to be Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Please join. We had a lot of people join the last 2 weeks, and we had a good time with it. So if you have any questions, if you need daily football advice, daily fantasy advice, we have all of that for you. If this is your first time listening, thank you. We appreciate you and hope you enjoy the show. If it's not your first time, we appreciate you coming back. You could find us on Tuesdays and Fridays. The audio is going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and anywhere that you find podcasts. If you want to watch us for the video, you can watch it on our YouTube channel at PrimeTime Fantasy Podcasts. You can follow us on social media, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at PrimeTimeFFPod, and Facebook, PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. All right, that is all we got for the plugs. Let's get into our injury updates. First off, we have some Browns injuries to the wide receivers. Jarvis Landry, his knee, he's on the IR. He'll be out 3 weeks. He can return off the IR for week 6 versus the Cardinals. We knew about this injury a couple days ago. Thought it was a sprained MCL, so he will be missing time. But on the other side, OBJ was a full go at practice. He's not confirmed by Kevin Stefanski to play, but he has been teasing it on social media. So I think there's a good chance that OBJ could get some work in this weekend. So, Cody, how do these injuries affect the Browns from a fantasy perspective?
My worry is Odell Beckham Jr. plays about 50% of the snaps at best. Now, can he provide a quality fantasy day on 50% of snaps? Of course. I mean, it's Odell Beckham Jr. I don't think he's going to make it into people's lineups. I don't think I'm confident enough putting him in a lineup yet.
What about you, Nick? How does both of these wide receivers affect the Browns from a fantasy perspective?
I think Baker, if you're someone that owns Baker, I'd look to transition for the weeks where he doesn't have at least Odell at 100% or Jarvis back in the lineup. I think Kareem Hunt gets a massive bump. You know, he's like we saw last year, him be used as an outside receiver when they were missing Odell with the injury. So he's going to see the field a lot more. I think, Jarvis being out for 3 weeks, that's a tough break for the Browns. It's going to be tough for the running game as well because, a part of the benefit was they had 2 good outside receivers, and even with the one, they didn't really – typically you wouldn't be able to stack the box because Odell or Jarvis would be able to break into the secondary. But now there's going to be 8 in the box, so it's going to be tougher for Nick Chubb. It'll be tougher for Kareem Hunt in the running game, but it'll get the massive upside of that still passing game. So, I mean, I think the biggest hurt has to be Baker Mayfield, though.
Yeah, I think Baker's hurting big from this one. Jarvis is out 3 weeks. We all had him as a lock last week, and that just didn't work, unfortunately, due to the injury. Tua Tagovailoa is out this week with fractured ribs. I'm not sure how long he's going to be out for. It sounds like something that's definitely going to be more than 1 week, but he's not on the IR though for some reason. I don't know why he's not on IR as of yet, but I'm sure
not yet.
It could be at some point. So, Nick, how does this affect those Dolphins wide receivers and Myles Gaskin?
I mean, you took a look at Drew Brees last year. I think he cracked 12 out of 14 of his ribs. Like he got it worse, and he was out for a long time. I mean, this is definitely a serious injury, and he's going to be out for a while. I mean, he took what was described as a normal hit by many, and you see him get a fractured rib on it. It's not good for the outlook on Tua for the season. I'd be worried as an owner that soft injuries like this will, be difficult to maintain and overcome. On top of that, I mean, they have 3 solid receivers. It sounds like Will Fuller is going to be back in action. Devontae Parker, rookie.
Yeah, Will Fuller is confirmed to play this week by Brian Flores, I believe. So everybody in Yahoo, the 10,000 people that dropped him, you may want to go scoop him up, or maybe not knowing who the quarterback's going to be. It could be the Jacoby Brissett show, which doesn't really bode well for Will Fuller. Cody, how does this injury affect those Dolphins wide receivers, specifically Jalen Waddle, who's had a solid start for that season?
It makes them all unplayable. Their offensive line is terrible in pass protection. You can just see it. Like Tua, I just hope he comes back and plays well, but it's stuff like this that can ruin a quality young quarterback, just getting hammered over and over and over. It gives them happy feet. They may never recover from it. Their offensive line does not pass block well. I would not feel confident starting any Miami Dolphin player, possibly for the rest of the season. I mean, Jalen Waddle obviously is a freak talent. He would be the only exception that I would make for that. And that still, it is scraping. If you're in a deeper league, I understand you have to play him. Obviously in Dynasty, he's a massive stash. He's got tremendous upside, but the Miami Dolphins went way down on the offensive side of the ball without Tua.
What about Myles Gaskin? How playable is Myles Gaskin at the moment?
Nope. No, thank you.
Don't want to touch him?
Nope.
I think I would play him. I mean, he'd still be on the bench, but I'd feel a little more comfortable playing him, to fill in a bye week or something like that than I would with any of the wide receivers. I mean, the number one player that I'm not touching and I think is droppable in all leagues right now is Mike Gesicki. I think there's too many other tight ends that have had boom weeks. Like he should be gone now at this point. Unrosterable, in my opinion.
All right. Let's go to the next injury that we have here. We're going to talk about Antonio Brown. Today's Wednesday, the 22nd. So as of today, we're recording on Wednesday, the 22nd. The show comes out on the 24th. But as of today, Wednesday, the 22nd, Antonio Brown was put on the COVID list. He now needs 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. So I believe he would have to test on both Thursday and then Saturday, something along those lines. They would need to both be negative. He did test positive for COVID. This isn't a false positive, so he does need to be anti-symptomatic. So big game, the Bucs against the Rams this weekend. How does this affect that Rams offense that Bucs offense? If you have Antonio Brown, you're not playing him obviously now. So Cody, how does this affect Godwin, Brady, and guys like Mike Evans?
I don't think it affects them that much. Obviously, this offense has shown whoever's open is going to get the ball. It really just depends week to week who they're going to funnel targets to. Week 1, it was Antonio Brown that had the great game against the Cowboys. Week 2, Godwin's always pretty consistent. Week 2, it was pretty much Mike Evans. He caught 2 touchdowns, whereas Antonio Brown caught 1 ball. He has the vaccine. He has been vaccinated. So, I mean, they're leaving the door open that he could play. I think it's unlikely. I don't think it obviously sucks. I'm an Antonio Brown owner in a league. Obviously, you're not going to play him if he's not playing. But that offense, I think they can withstand losing one of the guys because they have so many weapons.
What are your thoughts, Nick, on Antonio Brown possibly missing this Sunday's game?
I mean, Scotty Miller's going to take over the role like he did prior to AB being there last year, and the offense still had no problem getting the ball down the field. So I really don't see much of a concern for the other two wide receivers. Maybe this week, obviously, with Jalen Ramsey guarding one of them. But besides that, there's not really much change, in my opinion, on the outlook you would have had with AB and without AB in the lineup.
All right, and we have updates to the 49ers running backs. Elijah Mitchell will not practice today. His shoulder is a little worse than a stinger, but Kyle Shanahan did say that Mitchell, quote-unquote, has a chance to go Sunday. Trey Sermon will be limited due to concussion protocol, and JaMychal Hasty will not play. I'm not touching any of these San Francisco running backs. I'm not touching any San Francisco 49er, except for Deebo Samuel. Kittle, you have to play just because of where you drafted him. I'm in that situation. Unfortunately, I drafted him in 3 leagues, and he's letting me down big time. Kyle Shanahan is a fantasy nightmare for us. He's a nightmare as a head coach. He's the absolute worst. He's going to win 13 games. He has a good football team. He knows how to coach from a fantasy perspective. Kyle Shanahan sucks. You're the worst. Why do you lie to fantasy managers? Why can't you use your running backs? Why do you use Kyle Juszczyk on the goal line? Why? He drives me insane. If you have Elijah Mitchell and you picked him up, he's not playable. I wouldn't touch him this week. JaMychal Hasty's not playing. Sherman might play. We don't even know what this concussion protocol is. He said a quote earlier today about maybe even signing Frank Gore. Like, I want no part of the San Francisco 49ers right now from a fantasy perspective. Cody, any other thoughts?
No, I've made my San Francisco running back intentions extremely clear. I don't trust anyone until Trey Sermon takes over that backfield. I will not be touching it. Not in DFS, not in standard year-long leagues, not in Dynasty, not anywhere. I will be starting Deebo Samuel, and I will be starting George Kittle. That's it.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah, same exact thing. I mean, we've been saying it for a couple of weeks. Me and Cody are, I don't know about Nick so much, but we're extremely high on Trey Sermon when it comes to his backfield. That's the other playable guy. As an Ayuk owner, I'm pissed. But with that running back situation, I mean, it is what it is. That they keep getting hurt. They look like the Ravens' backfield at this point. We'll see. We'll see what happens as the week progresses. But it really doesn't sound like any are going to be playable, because even when one's going to be healthy, Kyle Shanahan's going to go run the ball with Deebo on the end arounds. Like, they're going to find another way to get the ball up the field running it without being that only one healthy running back. So I still wouldn't feel comfortable unless if it were only Trey Sermon's backfield.
Yeah. Andy Dalton is week to week with the Chicago Bears. However, Justin Fields will be getting his first start this week against the Cleveland Browns. Cody, how does Justin Fields affect his wide receivers and Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney? And is Justin Fields playable in fantasy now?
All right, it's time. QB1, Justin Fields. It's here. Strap the rocket ship to him. It's time to let the pony roll. Allen Robinson, he dropped a touchdown pass on Sunday from Justin Fields because the ball was thrown too damn good. He wasn't used to it. He was not used to the ball hitting him directly in the hands where it's supposed to. It shocked him. His body went into shock. He couldn't do it. Obviously, Darnell Mooney, it's a massive upgrade to him. Justin Fields is a phenomenal talent. He offers incredible things with his legs that Andy Dalton just doesn't offer. He's got a massive arm. I'm really excited to see Fields. As a massive Fields fan, I was a little bummed when the Broncos didn't take him. Obviously, they knew what they were doing. I was bummed, but I'm still a believer. I own Justin Fields in every season-long league. I snatched him up in the 11th to 13th round, depending on what league. I don't know if I'm playing him this week because my other quarterbacks are pretty good so far. They've been good. I've drafted Justin Fields for the second half of the season. But, man, I didn't think it'd be this soon. What about you, Nick?
So I'm not happy about the weekly matchup. They got to go into Chicago, and that's two linebackers that, as a rookie mobile quarterback, you really do not want to see. You don't want to see Khalil Mack coming off the edge, but Allen Robinson clearly gets the massive upgrade. Darnell Mooney, that ceiling we were hoping he hits, it's a week earlier, which is definitely helpful, and we hope he can hit that sooner than we anticipated. So you got to be hype as a fantasy owner of any of those three guys. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But this week I'm not playing Fields, but if you have him on your bench, you should be super excited that you got him now.
I hate the matchup for Justin Fields. I hate it. I hate the matchup against the Cleveland Browns. I'm playing the Browns defense in 2 leagues. The Bears offensive line is terrible. The Browns defensive line is excellent. Fields is going to get rattled out there. He's going to throw a pick or two. I want no part of it. I want no part of it. He can run all he wants, but if Myles Garrett's right there, he's not running anywhere. There's a big grizzly there right there to take him down.
Just did to that.
Tyrod Taylor's a veteran, though. Tyrod Taylor's a veteran, though. You're throwing Justin Fields as a rookie in there. I'm not trusting Justin Fields this week. I don't want him anywhere on my lineup. Darnell Mooney, I think it's going to be a stud this season.
He's in my DFS lineup.
This is where we're going to disagree. I want no part of the Browns.
If he's going to get 10 to 15 rush attempts, I'm all in. I'm not starting him in season long, not yet. But for DFS, woo!
Well, hopefully
he had 10 rushes and a half.
Hopefully he stays on his feet for those 10
designed rushes. That's crazy.
Yeah, well,
but yeah, I love Justin Fields. I hate that Andy Dalton got hurt. I really do. I never want injuries to hit any NFL player. Obviously, as a fantasy fan, it's just like Justin Fields is the guy you want to see on the field because he offers so much extra to Allen Robinson, to Darnell Mooney, to Cole Kmet, and he can run. As a quarterback for fantasy football, that is massive. And I mean, I'm super excited. I haven't really looked at their schedule for the following couple weeks. I figure Andy Dalton will miss 2 to 4 weeks. It really just depends how Fields plays. I know Nagy said Andy Dalton's his quarterback when he's healthy, but I don't think he will be once we get a good look at Fields.
Yeah, I think that this could be the opportunity for Fields to really take that job, almost like how Justin Herbert did last year with the Chargers. That is all the injury updates we have for you. We're now going to kick it to lock or flop. We're going to tell you guys 3 players, 3 quarterbacks, tight ends, wide receivers, running backs. If you watch the show on Fridays, and hopefully you have watched or listened, you know the drill when it comes to lock or flop. So let's start with the quarterbacks. We have Derek Carr, the Dolphins, going to Las Vegas to face the Raiders. Ben Roethlisberger, the Bengals, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then Daniel Jones, the Falcons, coming to the Giants. So let's start here with Daniel Jones. Cody, is he a lock or a flop for you going up against the Falcons at home? The Giants.
Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes is coming for heads. He's a lock. I never thought I'd ever say that. He's a top 12 quarterback. Atlanta's defense is terrible. Daniel Jones has faced the Broncos at home, and he's went to Washington. He's faced 2 fantastic defenses. He gets the Falcons at home. Daniel Jones, if you're in a 12-team league, it's hard. It's hard for me if you don't have a top 6 quarterback. It's going to be hard for me to say you're starting someone other than Daniel Jones. I mean, the Falcons' defense is bad. It could shoot out. I love Daniel Jones this weekend. He's getting rushing. They're actually letting him run the ball, and he enjoys that. I love Daniel Jones. I'm very high on him this weekend.
How about you, Nick? Is Danny Dimes money for you?
Yeah, I'm locking him in. Right now he's the QB4. He has, 7.5 rushing attempts per game. Yeah, he has 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 in each game. I think he nearly hit 100 rushing yards last week. Only has 1 turnover in the 2 games, and that was against the Denver Broncos and the Washington football team, 2 of the top 5, maybe 7 defenses in the NFL. This is against the Atlanta team that just came off letting up 48, even though it's a much better offense and talented quarterback. And then the week prior to the Eagles let up, I think it was 31. So, this team's allowing points. They're allowing points. It's a quarterback that's hot right now. QB4, he has the rushing upside. He's taken those attempts, and that's all the makings of what you want. And for someone that you're looking to stream on a weekly basis, and he hits every single one of those buckets. If you need someone to start because of a tough quarterback matchup, he's the guy that you should be streaming this week without a question in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Danny Dimes, he's money this week. He's going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. He scored 20-plus fantasy points the last 2 weeks. I think he had 29 last week. I'm pretty sure he was a top 5 fantasy quarterback against the football team. I think he's going to have a great game. I think Shepard's going to have a great game. Saquon should break out finally against his terrible defense.
The Falcons have given up 8 passing touchdowns in 2 games.
It's averaging 4. Danny Dimes will get 3 of them at least. And on top of that, the Falcons are terrible. They've let up 2 back-to-back quarterbacks. I know they're Tom Brady and Jalen Hurts, 25-plus fantasy points back-to-back weeks. Slot in Danny Dimes if you can. If you don't have a guy like Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or
I'm
Kyler,
starting Daniel Jones over Jalen Hurts. People know how high I am on Jalen Hurts. I'm starting Daniel Jones over him this weekend.
Against the circus? The Cowboys circus?
Yeah, the circus isn't the circus anymore. I can't even call it that.
So the circus left town, apparently.
If they slowed down Justin Herbert, man, I have a hard time believing Jalen Hurts, who's not near the passer that Justin Herbert is, goes nuts against him. And I think Daniel Jones puts up a top 5 quarterback week this week.
All right. How about Ben Roethlisberger, the Bengals at the Steelers? Ben's also dealing with a pectoral muscle. As far as we know, he's going to play, although that's not 100% confirmed. Mason Rudolph might be manning the sleigh on this one. But if not, if Big Ben does play, how do you like his chances against the Bengals, Cody?
I want no part of Ben Roethlisberger.
For those of you that aren't watching the video, Cody just put the thumbs down right on the screen. So the audio, just imagine a big thumbs down.
Big Ben is big bad. The dude is washed. He looks terrible. He can't throw the ball. He looks like a grandpa trying to move. The only piece of this offense that I would feel confident starting anymore is Najee Harris, and that's just because of the passing game work that he gets.
I think Deontay Johnson's a starter every week. Deontay gets
he's hurt now.
I think he's playing, though. Is he out?
Maybe his Instagram post was really vague. Like, he was thanking the fans and saying, I'll be back better than ever. Like, that's not I'm not going to miss any time type of message.
Yeah, that's an IR
Johnson
message right there.
He is the only receiver that I would feel confident playing week in and week out. Juju's he's getting the targets, but they're like 5 yards. There's no depth to the targets. And Chase Claypool, he can't throw the ball deep anymore. Claypool is just a dart throw for me.
To me, Big Ben is the Undertaker at WrestleMania 33 against Roman Reigns. The guy, he couldn't pick up Roman Reigns for his signature tombstone move, and Big Ben can't do it. Big Ben can't throw the ball anymore. He's just somebody that I'm avoiding in fantasy lineups. I think there's if you're in a 12-team league, I'm sure that Daniel Jones or Derek Carr are on waivers. You could even pick up Teddy B against the Jets. I'm going to talk about later. There's got to be a quarterback out there you could play unless it's a 14-team league. And who did you draft? I want to know who you drafted, because there's no way you drafted Big Ben as your quarterback 1. And if you did, you made a mistake and you got to die in your grave now. So he's a flop for me. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, Big Ben, there was a point last year where it became the workload just outworked the talent, and now the talent's, it's not enough where the workload compensates. There's no rushing upside. The Bengals might be one of the weaker defenses in the league, and they might have one of the best receiving cores in the league, but Big Ben's arm is shot. He's not getting the ball deep to Claypool. Deontay and Juju, they're short guys that he trusts. He gets it there, but that doesn't get them points. Because of how pass happy he needs to be, it's 300 yards and multiple touchdowns for him to have a top 10 finish. He's just not capable of doing that anymore with that workload. So I think Big Ben right now is owned in 33% of ESPN leagues still. That's 1 out of 3. He should be owned in 0 out of 300. He should be absolutely unrostered at this point. I mean, Daniel Jones we spoke about, Derek Carr we're about to. Those are 2 guys you should have that are on the waiver wire that you should own over him without a doubt. I think any of our minds at this point.
Big Ben or Sam Darnold?
no hate on Darnold. No hate on Big Ben. I'm super happy for him. He come to training camp this year in fantastic shape. I give him nothing but props, but the man's arm is gone. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. It ain't coming back.
How about Derek Carr? Darnold. How about Derek Carr? Derek Carr was on our lock or flop last week. I think you both flopped him. I think I gave him a lock over Big Ben. And if you're comparing the two quarterbacks this week going against those Miami Dolphins, and Carr had another top 5 fantasy week last week. So is Derek Carr a lock or flop going against the Dolphins, Cody?
He's a top 12 quarterback for me. I mean, something flipped for him. He's Henry Ruggs looks good. He's got his wheels. Obviously, Darren Waller is a baller. He's nuts. They're not running the football, so their offense is throwing the ball, and so that means that Derek Carr's got to be good. The Dolphins are going to be bad. Their offense is not going to be able to move the ball. Their defense is pretty good, but Derek Carr has beaten the Ravens and the Steelers in his first 2 weeks. Their defenses are pretty good too, so I feel pretty. And
the Bills just put up 30+ against the Dolphins, so I don't think their defense. They're not an elite defense. They're good, but I don't even consider the Dolphins elite, so I wouldn't be worried.
Yeah,
about
I feel confident in saying that Carr is a lock for a top 12 finish.
I say he's a lock for a top 10 finish. He's been a top 5 fantasy quarterback the last 2 weeks. I think he has 700 something yards. He's got to have 6 touchdowns by now, something like that. He's spreading the ball around. He's not just feeding somebody. I know week 1 it was the Darren Waller show, but it wasn't last week. It was fed to Renfro. It was fed to Ruggs. So until John Gruden gets upset and says, I need to run the football because that's the football that I want to play, until he gets to that point, I would ride Derek Carr. I said it on Tuesday's show. Derek Carr should be owned in all fantasy leagues to me right now. He's a backup at least. He's a backup and he's a borderline starter. I have Russell Wilson in 2 of my leagues and Dak in another. But if I didn't have those 2 quarterbacks, I would pick up Derek Carr and start him. If you're debating between Burrow or Herbert, Herbert's the one that I would play Derek Carr over I would play Derek Carr over Justin Herbert every week at the moment, because Herbert's not shown enough to me in his sophomore year. Same with Joe Burrow. Same with yes. Well, what has Herbert done, Nick? I need to hear this, Nick. What has Herbert done this year to show that he should be a starter over Derek Carr in fantasy?
Thrown for over 300 yards in both games.
So the point isn't what Derek Carr has done in the past 2 games. It's what Justin Herbert did 1 year ago and how the Raiders' season has progressed under John Gruden. The first half of the season has always been hot for Derek Carr and those Raiders under Gruden, and they've fallen off a cliff ever since. Justin Herbert has only increasingly gotten better. He had a poor performance against the Dallas Cowboys, but they've proven that they have playmakers on that defense. They're much better defense than anticipated, and clearly what's his name? Dan Quinn.
What about Russell Wilson? What about Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson's my guy, but he started off as the MVP last year and fell off. So is he in that same category as the Raiders? How much stock do you put into something like that?
Well, Russell Wilson has proven himself to be a winning quarterback that makes the playoffs consistently. Derek Carr.
You don't need playoffs. You don't need playoffs in fantasy football. You need fantasy points.
I understand, but there's a difference. He has the rushing ability. He has that upside. He has 2 elite wide receivers. 2 completely different situations, better coach, ability to get in the end zone more consistently. Russell Wilson has much more of that upside. We'll focus back on Derek Carr. Let me just talk about him for a little bit. So in this matchup, I like him. The way you beat the Dolphins without Tua is to put points on the board. We saw in week 2 that's what Buffalo did, and that's exactly what they're going to continue to do. That's what John Gruden has to recognize. Henry Ruggs has proven now to be the deep threat that you thought he would be his rookie year. And they're finally letting him go, letting him run deep and opening up the middle of the field for Waller. It's a phenomenal opportunity for all those players. They have no run game. Derek Carr is the only quarterback with over 700 passing yards right now, and he has over 800. So the guy is getting the ball down the field. He's getting completions. He's getting the yards, and he's finding his way into the end zone. And the formula to beat Miami right now is just put points on the board, because Jacoby Brissett is a game manager. You're not managing the game with no run game. Derek Carr is going to get that ball to the end zone. Locked in top 10 quarterback for me.
I think calling
All right.
Jacoby Brissett a game manager is being extremely kind. I think he's a borderline NFL player.
I think he's an assistant to a game manager. He's some kind of assistant. All right, let's go to receivers. Let's go to receivers. We have Henry Ruggs, Mike Evans, and Rondale Moore. Let's keep it with the Raiders. Henry Ruggs going against the Dolphins. He had a big game last week. He had a long touchdown. Cody, is Henry Ruggs a lock or a flop against the Dolphins?
He is a flop for me. I've only seen it once last year and once so far this year. I want to see it over a numerous game basis, preferably in a row. Henry Ruggs has proven to be extremely fast, and he can catch a deep ball every now and then, but he doesn't do much else. If he doesn't catch a deep ball for a touchdown, he's probably going to burn you. So for me, he is a flop until I see it for a couple weeks.
What about you, Nick? Lock or flop with Henry Ruggs?
Yeah, as high as I am on Derek Carr, he becomes from the multitude of weapons and no running ability. Henry Ruggs really does need to rely on the deep ball. And I just don't see him getting consistent enough targets in a game where I think the Raiders will take an early lead. So I don't know if I would trust them to really burn them off the top. And that one big play for the touchdown, it makes your week, but it doesn't really make him a reliable option. So banking on that and a matchup against Brian Flores, I'm not certain if he'll be able to do that and if that's, what the outcome of the game will be. But I think Ruggs, you're comfortable with him on your bench. You're happy what you saw last week, and you just hope for it to continue. He has a nice week this week on your bench. You should just be more than grateful that he's doing it consistently.
I'll tell you this. He's a flop for me this week only because of the position. The wide receiver position is just way too deep. Unless you're in a 14 or 16-man league, I just don't see why you're playing Ruggs. I think you could play him in daily fantasy. He's probably a cheaper option. But if you're in a 12 or a 10-man league, you've got to have a more consistent receiver that you could play. But Ruggs did get 5 targets week 1. He got 7 last week. Week 1, he caught 2 of those for 46 yards. That's roughly 6-7 fantasy points, but week 2, he had 7 targets, 5 receptions, 113 yards. That long touchdown was 61. So even if you take away that 61 yards, he still had 4 receptions and 70 yards roughly. That's 11 fantasy points. So they're using him. So I think he has to be rostered in just about 100% of leagues. If you have a 10-man bench, I think you need to roster Henry Ruggs and give him a week unless you really, really, really don't like your matchups with your other wide receivers. Speaking of wide receivers whose matchups I do not like, Mike Evans, the Buccaneers against the Rams. I want no part of Jalen Ramsey. I've let this be known. I've also let it be known that Mike Evans has his up games and his down game. We had his up game last week. This is a down game. I'm fading Mike Evans. You might have a better matchup with one of your wide receivers, whether you have maybe you have Rondale Moore, maybe you have Cortland Sutton, maybe you have Jamar Chase. I'm really considering benching Mike Evans this week because I'm scared of Jalen Ramsey. And I think the way to beat the Bucs is to get pass rush. Aaron Donald's going to be up there. I think the Rams got a solid chance against the Bucs. Mike Evans is a flop for me. How about you, Cody?
He's a flop for me. Tom Brady's proven that he doesn't care who catches the ball. They're open. They're getting the ball. Mike Evans will not be open on Sunday.
What about you, Nick?
Same thing with Cody. Less than 100 yards in the last 2 games. He got the 2 touchdowns last week against Atlanta. Trayvon Diggs was able to shut him down week 1. There's no way Jalen Ramsey won't be able to.
All right. How about Rondale Moore, the Cardinals going up against the Jaguars in Jacksonville? Long travel for the Cardinals, but the Jaguars are a pitiful team, so that really shouldn't matter. Rondale Moore's had I think he had 12 fantasy points week 1. I think he had over 25 and exploded week 2. Hot waiver wire pickup. He was rostered in 19% of ESPN leagues, which is criminal. He should be at 100 right now. It should have been higher before the draft, but all of you missed out. Not me. I drafted him in 3 leagues, so not me. Nick, Rondale Moore, lock or flop this week?
You got to lock him against this Jaguars team. The guy out-targeted DeAndre Hopkins. It's not a question who the wide receiver 2 will truly be on this team as the season progresses, and it's already starting to come. Take Rondale Moore now, run with him to the moon, put him in that flex spot.
And for you, Cody?
Oh, he's a lock. He's a literal Energizer Bunny. When he's on the field, they manufacture ways to get him the ball. He had one of those goofy little the bloop passes, where they hike the ball in shotgun and the quarterback just kind of throws the ball in front of him. It's a pass. Patrick Mahomes is a king of them. He gets like 15 touchdowns a year from Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill from him. Well, they did that to Rondo Morris. He doesn't like to get hit. I will say that. He does not like to get hit at all. He got schmammered at about the 2-yard line. Actually lost the football. And had the defender gotten 2 feet down before he went out of bounds, it would have been a turnover. But he got hammered and just like pretty much dropped the ball. Like just didn't even care. But yeah, he's a lock. He's insane.
I am very happy that I own Rondo Morris in 3 leagues. I'm even happier that one of them is a dynasty league and that Kyler's young and Rondale's young. It's going to be great. We're going to have a fun time with Rondo Morris for the rest of his career. I just have Rondo Morris, George Kittle. I just have people from everybody in my division. I have Robert Woods in another league. So fun stuff from the NFC West. Rondo Moore's a lock for me. He's clearly going to assert himself as the wide receiver 2 over Christian Kirk and over AJ Green. He's developing chemistry with Kyler Murray. This might be the number 1 offense in football right now. I know the Chiefs are there, the Bucks. The Cardinals look really, really good. They might be the number 1 offense in football. Might. It's tough to juggle everybody else, but as long as they're scoring, if they're scoring 30 plus, give me Rondo Morris almost every single week. Running backs. We have 3 running backs here. Melvin Gordon, Jets coming to Denver. Tony Pollard, breakaway speed. Tony Pollard, the Eagles coming to the Cowboys. And Cordell Patterson, hot waiver wire pickup that you can play at both running back and wide receiver, depending on your league. The Falcons coming to the Giants. So, Cody, let's start with Melvin Gordon. Is he a lock or flop for your Broncos this week?
Well, that's a picture of Javonte Williams, but it doesn't matter. Melvin Gordon, like I said last week, he is a flop for me. I don't trust this run game right now. Their run blocking has not been very good, and I just don't feel confident in saying, yeah, Melvin Gordon's going to break a 70-yard touchdown. And get you there. Like right now, he's probably good for 6 to 8 fantasy points, and that's about it.
He's a flop for me. You have to have a better option than Melvin Gordon. There has to be somebody even on the waivers, and if there's not, and you have to play him, you're taking an L in your second running back slot this week. How about you, Nick?
He's someone you should have traded high on this week. I think this is the game where Javonte really steps up. I think this is the game where you start to see Javonte be the breakout back in that backfield. The one strength that the Jets have shown in the first 2 games of the season is their front defensive line. The running back situation, they should get off to that lead. They're going to force the turnovers on Zach Wilson. It's a situation where I think that Javonte really does have the breakout, and I would have sold high on Melvin Gordon if you were someone that was owning him in your league.
How about Tony Pollard? He had 20-plus fantasy points this week at over 8 week 1. He's starting to eat into Ezekiel Elliott's touches. This could be the Saints situation with Kamara and Ingram. Don't know what's going on with Zeke, if he's still the bell cow. So, Cody, is Tony Pollard somebody on your bubble that could help you with a Monday night miracle?
Nope. Eagles' run defense is very good. They will shut down Zeke and Tony Pollard. Is Zeke a lock or a flop for you then? No, he's a flop. Both of them are flops. I'll be shocked if they get 50 or 60 rushing yards combined.
Would you bench Zeke this week?
Depending on who you had, it's a possibility. I mean, he's not getting all the work. Week 1, he got about 70%. Week 2, he got closer to 60%. He got in the end zone to kind of save his day. Yeah, I mean, if you've got pretty decent options at running back, it might be time to put old Zeke on the bench this week.
Well, this will be a hot topic. So if you have any questions whether you should start Zeke over running back X, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube right here is a perfect opportunity to ask those questions. Nick, Tony Pollard, lock or flop?
Pollard's a flop, and it's not because of the matchup. Tony Pollard has those breakout games once or twice a year. Last year I thought that Pollard looked like the better running back than Zeke. Zeke looks in much better shape this year. I think he looks a lot better than he did last year. The offensive line looks good. Amari Cooper's a little dinged up. Michael Gallup's out. They're going to be checking the ball down. It's going to be Schultz. It's going to be Zeke getting a couple more of those passes, those short passes. I think Zeke will have a fine day. I think he'll have his production. I don't think he has the upside for a boom week against the Eagles defense. But I think Pollard's a flop. I think, there's a little bit of the recency biased hype of should he be a starter. Like I said before, the only team where I start 2 running backs is the Browns. Outside of that, there's no team I think I would confidently start multiple running backs.
Yeah, he's a flop for me. I think you need to see some production from a week-to-week basis, not just a boom or bust game. So for me, I'm not starting Tony Pollard in any format this week. How about Cordell Patterson against the Giants? Hot waiver wire pickup. Nick, is he a lock or a flop?
No, I do not know how he became fantasy relevant. I'm genuinely confused at the fact that Cordell Patterson, rose from the grave. It shocks me. Cordell Patterson, he's someone I own in 0% of leagues. He's someone I will continue to own in 0% of leagues. He's someone I will not be starting in any leagues. He's, good for him for having this early, hot start. But I'm sorry, that's not the guy that I trust starting.
Cody?
Nope. No, thank you. I own him in a league. He's a super deep bench stash. I actually think it's our league that I picked him up in. I will not start a guy that gets 10 to 12 touches. That he can't find the running lane to save his soul. He's not a good route runner. It's just if he rolls into the end zone, he had a good week. Nope, not for me.
I'm out on Cordell Patterson as well. Tight ends. Every week we talk about tight ends. It's very tough to find one that's going to score you at least 10 fantasy points. I've had that issue, and I have one of these tight ends. Jonnu Smith is with the Patriots, the Saints coming to town over there. Jack Doyle, the Colts at the Titans, and Jared Cook, Chargers at the Chiefs. So let's start with Jared Cook. Cody, is he a lock or a flop for you?
He's a lock because this game should shoot out, and they will need him on the field. He doesn't play very much when they're running the football, but if it's a shootout, they're going to be passing a lot. Jared Cook needs to be out there, and he needs to be in your lineup.
How about you, Nick? Lock or flop, Jared Cook?
I was a flop. The Chiefs have done one thing well, and that's not give high production games to the tight end. They've allowed the running backs to score well. They've allowed wide receivers to have average games. The tight end position hasn't really had a boom. I don't think that they're going to boom with Matthews sitting there. And I just don't trust that team to really – I don't trust Jared Cook to be able to have the upside of a tight end that you would hope for. I think enough players this year have shown that boom potential where I think that there's other options I'd pivot to. Jared Cook might provide you a safer floor, but I think I'd rather look to someone with more upside like the other two that we have on this list.
I'm locking in Jared Cook. I think he gets 5 targets a game at the moment, so he should get another 5 from Herbert. He could get a red zone look. I think this Chargers offense has to figure it out at some point. They haven't looked great through the first 2 weeks, but the Chiefs are a team that are going to score a lot of points. The Ravens put up a good amount against them. The Browns put up a good amount against them. Austin Hooper had a decent day, and so did who's our other tight end? Njoku. So I think Jared Cook is going to get a decent day, and if he doesn't, then the Chargers probably don't score a lot of points. And he's not the focal point of the offense, but if the offense is flowing and this does turn out to be a 30 to 25 game, I think Cook's going to get his. How about Jack Doyle, the Colts versus the Titans? Cody, is Jack Doyle a lock or a flop for you?
No, thank you. He has these games where he catches 7 or 8 balls, and then you don't hear from him for a month or two. So, nope.
I think there are better options out there, but if he's your last resort, if he's out there on the waiver wire and you desperately need a tight end, I would take a shot on Jack Doyle. I'll lock him in this week. I think he's good for 10 points, which is all you really need from a tight end anyway.
I have a differing opinion. I'm much higher on Jack Doyle this week. I think that Carson Wentz is someone that looks to the tight end, and I think it's something that he will continue to do. I think Jack Doyle has the potential for those 7-8 catch games. He has the potential to hit the end zone. And out of a tight end where, he was not drafted, I would guess in almost every single league out there, that's the upside that you can't really get on the waiver wire anymore at the tight end position. So, if someone like that's available, I'd rather shoot my shot on him than with someone with maybe a safer floor with Jared Cook.
Carson Wentz needs to look into some mechanical legs or something because he's just breaking down. Jonnu Smith, the Saints at the Patriots, lock or flop for you, Nick?
I'm locking in Jonnu Smith. I got him locked in for most weeks. He's an athletic tight end. Mac Jones relies on those tight ends. He loves the position. He's going to continue to under Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels. I like the tight end position in New England. I think Jonnu's the one there, so lock him in.
Cody?
I agree. I'm a massive Jonnu fan. He's incredibly talented. The big, just absolute breakout game is coming. I'm locking him in. I love his upside.
The Saints are a weird team right now, and I think we need to see what their identity is, and that's why I'm fading Jonnu. We don't know what they are. We don't know what the Saints are. We don't know what Jameis is. We don't know what Marquez Callaway is. We don't know what the defense is. This week should tell us something. This week should tell us something. I have to play Jonnu in a league because there's nobody else on my waiver wire. I'm not really thrilled about it. I think there are better options out there. If there's not, then you got to play him, and he could have a solid week, but I'm out on Jonnu for the most part. Let's get into some rapid fire here. Some rapid fire start sits. One player from each team for each game, and we'll talk about it. So first game we got. Let me pull it up here. All right, let's go with Adam Humphries or Cole Beasley. Cody.
Cole Beasley. Adam Humphries, not consistent at all.
Nick.
Cole Beasley.
All right, I'm going to go with Cole Beasley as well. Kareem Hunt or Jordan Montgomery? Cody?
I mean David Montgomery.
Yeah.
David Montgomery. I'm thinking of Jordan Montgomery.
I'm going Monty. Just gets almost all the touches.
Nick?
I think Monty does get more of the workload, but I think Kareem Hunt's going to see a lot more work as an outside and slot receiver in this game, especially if we don't know what Odell's status is. So I'm going to roll with Hunt this week.
Brown's got to rely on the run from both Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, so I'm locking both of them in big time. Tyson Williams or Jamal Williams in the Ravens versus Lions game, Cody?
Jamal Williams. Just like I said with David Montgomery, he's going to get more work. They're going to get hammered, so he's going to play a lot. I don't want any part of the Ravens backfield.
Nick?
Yeah, same thing with me.
I'm taking Jamal Williams as well. I think he gets a decent amount of touches and receptions. The Lions offense isn't as bad as we thought it would be, so give me Jamal Williams. Mecole Hardman or Mike Williams? Cody?
Mike Williams. He's out there every play. Like I said earlier with Jared Cook, they're going to have to throw it. Mecole Hardman could always catch a bomb. He's super inconsistent. Mike Williams.
Nick?
Mike Williams reminds me of Will Fuller of last year. Like when the guy's healthy, he's a productive, good wide receiver. The problem was always that he was getting hurt. And we saw 2 back-to-back healthy weeks, and he's top 10 in targets. He's out targeting Keenan Allen right now. You play Mike Williams if you have him.
Yep, I agree. You have to play Mike Williams in this one. I don't trust any Chiefs receiver not named Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill. Jameis Winston or Mac Jones. I pray that neither of these quarterbacks have to be started in your league, but we couldn't find anything better for this abysmal game. So, Cody?
Matt Jones. I don't want no part of Jameis.
I'm taking Jameis in this one. I think he could put up more yards and more touchdowns than Mac Jones. Nick?
I mean, Jameis has the more upside, but he's going to throw some picks to that New England defense. Belichick knows how to confuse your quarterback, and that LASIK surgery clearly didn't do too much in that Week 2 game against Carolina. So I'm going the other way.
Saquon Barkley or Mike Davis, Cody, as a Saquon Barkley owner?
Saquon. Come on. This is the breakout. This is the rocket game. Saquon is going to go nuts.
Nick?
Same exact thing. This has to be the breakout game. If it's not, I'd be really, really concerned. as someone that owns Saquon in 2 leagues. So it should be the breakout. If it's not, you're very concerned. But there's no way in hell I'm starting Mike Davis over Saquon.
This is the week you're locking in Saquon Barkley, and hopefully he finally shows up after these injury situation. Cordell Patterson or Sterling Shepard, Nick?
Shepard. I don't like Cordell Patterson.
Cody?
Yeah, Shepard, 100%.
Shepard can be locked in most weeks now in your flex position
week.
with the receiver. The receiver position is deep, so you may have to make a tough choice certain weeks, but I think Shepard's a guy you could trust at the moment. How about Chase Claypool or Tyler Boyd?
Tyler Boyd. Like I said, I don't want any part of Chase Claypool anymore.
Nick?
Chase Claypool's my guy. I see the talent. I'm rolling with Claypool on this week.
I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd. I trust all 3 Bengals receivers over all 3 of the Steelers receivers, except for Deontay Johnson, if he is healthy enough to play. Rondale Moore or Marvin Jones? Cody?
Marvin Jones, baby. He's getting a lot of targets. I love just the target share he's getting. Rondo Moore's only playing on a specific number of snaps. I like Marvin Jones a lot this week.
How about you, Nick?
Yeah, same thing. Marvin Jones is getting too many targets where you bench him. I like both the players. If you have to make the choice between the two, though, you go with the targets and the snap count.
Yeah, I agree. I think Marvin Jones has to catch a touchdown, and this one has to get a lot more targets where the Cardinals can kind of spread the ball around, but I like Rondale more for the rest of the season. Cortland Sutton or Corey Davis, Cody?
Cortland Sutton. I'm not touching Corey Davis against that defense.
I'm not either. I'm a Corey Davis owner. I'm going to play Rondale Moore over him, but I think Cortland Sutton, after 10 receptions, 160 yards, he's got to get at least 5 and 100 yards this week, so give me Cortland Sutton.
The Jets are bad at corner. They're very thin. They can't guard the outside. And, Bridgewater has shown an ability to hit the outside with these guys, so give me Sutton.
So in the Raiders game, we don't know the Josh Jacobs situation. So it's Josh Jacobs or Kenyon Drake or Myles Gaskin. I'm going to take whichever Raiders running back. I'm taking whatever Raiders running back plays over Myles Gaskin because he's not going to get a lot of work this Sunday against that Raiders defense. The Dolphins are going to be down. Give me one of the Raiders running backs. Cody?
God bless. Give me Gaskin because I hate Josh Jacobs.
Nick?
If it were Jacobs and Gaskin, I'd take Gaskin because I think that Brissett found a way to get the ball to Nyheim Hines, and I think they're going to have to find a way to do the same with Gaskin to have any production on that team or that short production. But if it's Kenyon Drake versus Gaskin, give me Drake because I like the receiving ability of Drake much better than I would of Josh Jacobs.
Okay. How about in the Seahawks versus Minnesota Vikings game, DK Metcalf or Justin Jefferson, Cody?
Justin Jefferson, it looks like a Lockett game again. And, man, as a DK owner, it hurts, but it does look like a Lockett game.
Nick?
As a Lockett owner, I like to hear that, but I'm rolling with DK. I like the workload. I think that Osborne is starting to get really integrated in that offense, and they're going to spread the ball as much as they can. And at heart, they still are a run-first team. So I would think that DK has the much higher ceiling on that offense than Justin Jefferson would in this game.
I'm also going to go with DK. He has to have one of those games at some point. We thought it was last week. It wasn't against the Titans. The Vikings defense just got torched by both the Cardinals and the Bengals, so give me DK in this one. Tyler Higbee, who was our lock of the week last week and just plummeted, and Rob Gronkowski, who we haven't been high on. So Gronk or Tyler Higbee, Cody?
Tyler Higbee, baby, I'm back in. 100% of snaps. It's a farce what he did last week. Gronk will not keep up his rapid touchdown pace. It's gotta fall off.
Nick?
Give me the guy that plays every snap.
I think both are startable, but Higbee's got the higher ceiling for me. Gronk is not going to go 3 consecutive weeks of 2 touchdowns, so I'm gonna go with the 100% snap count.
I'm not betting against Gronk again. Gronk's going to be your start this week. He's going to catch a touchdown in 20 yards. I'll just take Gronk.
I think that Gronk's going to be Nick's kryptonite. That's my prediction on the season.
Could be. George Kittle or Robert Tonyan? Cody?
Who was it?
Robert Tonyan, George Kittle.
Oh, George Kittle, 100%. You know I don't like Robert Tonyan.
Nick?
George Kittle.
I'm taking Kittle as well, even though he's very much disappointed this season. Thank you, Kyle Shanahan. You're wonderful, man. Wonderful. I love you. Devontae Smith or CeeDee Lamb on Monday Night Football. Nick?
Give me CeeDee Lamb. I think he's got around 20 targets. The guy's locked in on the offense, guaranteed role. So does Smith. Smith's developing, but the CeeDee looks phenomenal. Potentially, the Amari Cooper injury hinders. He's going to be the number one target on the week. He's got to be your guy, and he'll probably win you in Monday Night Football, some of your tough matchups.
How about you, Cody?
Oh, it's CeeDee, not close.
Yeah, I think you play both of them, but it has to be CeeDee Lamb in this one. So that is our rapid fire segment. Hopefully that helped you out a little bit with your starts and sits. And if it didn't, well, hopefully we can answer your questions on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. We're now going to go to our triple threat challenge. This is how it works. We pick a quarterback, a running back, and a receiver every single week. They have to meet the projection based on ESPN standard scoring. If all three hit, you get a win on the week. If 0 of the 3 hit, you don't get a win on the week. We are all 0-2 right now. Let's see how we do this week. All right, we're going to start things off with Nick. So, Nick, why did you decide to choose these players for your triple threat?
I'm waiting to see Cody's reaction on the first one.
Oh my God!
So for
Zach Wilson,
for those
for
those listening on audio, we have a graphic on the video, but for those listening only through audio, Nick's players for the triple threat, and again, this is a players that you pick the player and you can only use them once, and the goal is for them to hit their projection. Zach Wilson, 12.1 against the Broncos. Kareem Hunt, 11.0 against against the Bears. And then DK Metcalf, 17.5 against the Vikings. So, Nick, talk about your triple threat.
I started with Zach Wilson. Right now, he's ranked to be the QB 32 on the week, but at a 12-point projection, all he needs is 200 yards and a touchdown or 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
No picks.
I know. Hey, look, he's going to turn the ball over. That's the floor he needs to hit for him to hit 12 points. That is way too low of projection, as tough as the matchup is. But I love Zach Wilson as a player. I like the talent that I see. As tough of a defense as it is, I think that he still finds a way to get the ball down the field, and he finds some sort of production against Denver. What it is, but I think 12 points is just too low and too safe, where I think I would take the shot on him hitting 12. Kareem Hunt, we talked about it a lot. The guys, I think, will line up on the outside multiple times throughout the game. He's going to have a heavy run impact on the game. 11 points, way too low. I'm rolling with him very confidently. And DK Metcalf, as I talked about it, I think he has that big play upside. I think he's going to finish as the wide receiver 1 on the season. That's what I said before. It doesn't look like it with the Lockett production, but I'm going to stick to my gun. He's going to have to get that big game now or later. And I think that Minnesota provides him the perfect opportunity to finally reach that ceiling.
All right, Cody, your triple threat. If it does want to load, you could talk about it. Why did you decide to pick these players for your triple threat? We have Daniel Jones, the Falcons at the Giants, 19.4. Austin Eckler, the Chargers at the Chiefs, 17.6. And Marquise Hollywood Brown, the Ravens at the Lions, 14.2.
So I'll make this quick. Obviously, everyone already knows I love Daniel Jones this week, top 5 quarterback for me. He's went over 20 points in both of his games so far against good defenses. The Falcons are bad. He should go over 20 points again. Austin Eckler catches a lot of balls. That is an easy way to score points in fantasy football. So he's projected for 17.6. Don't even have to get in the end zone. He should be able to get that. At wide receiver, I went Hollywood Brown. He's looked very good to start the season. The Detroit Lions are bad. They're very bad. I figure he'll catch 5 balls, 60, 70 yards, and get a touchdown. If he don't get a touchdown, he's going to need 6 for 80. But we can get there. He's the one that I feel kind of less confident about, but I still think he gets there. I think he catches a long one. He hasn't caught a long touchdown yet.
All right. Thank you, Cody, for your week 3 triple threat. Here is mine. I have Teddy Bridgewater going up against those New York Jets. He's at 18 fantasy points he needs to hit. Tony Pollard, he's at 8.9 fantasy points against the Eagles on Monday night. And Adam Thielen against the Seahawks at 15.3. Teddy Bridgewater has back-to-back weeks with 20-plus fantasy points. The Jets are terrible. I think he could hit that number 18. A little worried about Tony Pollard, but I'm trying to get those bad or worse running backs out of the way. So 8.9 doesn't seem terrible. Give me a couple receptions, a couple yards, some rushes, maybe a touchdown, and Tony hits his projection. Adam Thielen against the Seahawks. I love my Seahawks, but their defense is not great. Julio Jones put up 100 on them and should have had a touchdown last week. So I think Adam Thielen gets 15.3. I think he scores a touchdown. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, so I think Thielen's going to get his. And I think my triple threat could hit this week, and we'll see if any of us hit our triple threat. Hopefully we do, because the segment will be a lot more fun if we can start racking up some wins. So that is our show for this week. Thank you for listening. The next time you'll hear from us, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time before week 3. Find us on our Twitter, our Facebook, or our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, the whole hour from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. we'll be answering every single question. We're also going to have our daily fantasy segment with Cody leading the charge on that one, and I'll be playing along as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. So tell your friends, join in. It's going to be fun. Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. If this was your first time listening, thank you again. Hopefully you come back. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you can get your podcasts and audio on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave us 5 stars and a review. It really does help. You can watch the show on YouTube every single Tuesday, Friday, and obviously the live show on Sundays. If you want to follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, PrimeTimeFFPod, or Facebook, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. Cody, anything you would like to say going into week 3?
Nope, just trying to get some wins. Last week was bad.
Nick, what about you?
Yeah, good luck in your week 3 matchups. Definitely make sure to stop by the Sunday broadcast. We answer every single question that comes through. We've been able to help a lot of people out, and why not bring yourself? All you got to do is stop by for 2 minutes, drop your question. We answer it immediately. We're going to help you guys out. Takes 2 minutes out of your Sunday. Doesn't even conflict with your football time. Make sure to stop by, ask those questions. We'll get them answered for you.
You can follow me on Twitter at @TheNickGiacobbe, and please do for everything football related and non-football related. Thank you guys for listening. That will be our show for today. See you Sunday, 11 a.m. Let's go week 3. Let's get some wins.